Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of Build on Open Source, the show that takes you through the latest open source projects and news. Today I am joined by my lovely co-host Abhishek. Abhishek, hello.
Hello, thank you so much for having me, Ricardo. And not too long back, I was a guest on the show and now a co-host. But don't worry, folks who are Derek fans out there. He's not going anywhere. just bear with me for today. That's all. Yeah, that's all.
Yes, indeed. How dare Derek take some time off? I'm not sure if Derek, if you're watching, if you are, then why? You should be taking some well-earned time off and enjoying yourself on your bike, hopefully. But Abhishek, so yes, from guest to host, right? What a transformation! So, any other previous guests who have been on here, the path has been set now forward by Abhishek.
Absolutely.
So, right. For folks who are new to the show, then how the show works is that we have a first segment where we look at some of the open source news and projects. We're going to spend about 10-15 minutes doing that. And then we're very lucky, we're going to bring a guest on. And this week's guest is Andrea Cavagna, who has got a really cool project to show us, Leap. If you're a developer and you use AWS, you definitely want to stick around and make sure you check this out, because I think it's going to be a project that's going to really supercharge your productivity. So we've got that, and then we're going to wrap up with a few things at the end. So that's how the show kind of like format looks like. Are you excited, Abhishek?
Absolutely, I am. Let's get to this.
I think we should start with the first segment. So we start off with the news, and we've got two newsletters we're going to cover. We're going to cover last week's newsletter. Abhishek, I think I'm going to hand that over to you to talk about. So 152, I think it was. You took a look at this. What projects stood out for you?
Actually, there's so many awesome projects, right? But a couple of them stood out to me, and a couple of shout outs as well, if we have time. So I can probably kick off with this one. If you see the AWS Gateway API controller for VPC Lattice, I know it's a bit of a mouthful, but
it's a great name, isn't it?
yeah, I know. Naming is always hard. But to be honest, this was new to me, and I decided to peek in. So just to give you an idea of what this is in a nutshell, it kind of marries the Kubernetes networking world, which is the Kubernetes Gateway API, with the AWS world, which in this case happens to be the VPC Lattice, right? So Amazon VPC Lattice is a new feature of Amazon VPC, of course, and it gives you this a way to connect and manage communication between your native AWS services. So they could be EC2 instances, Lambda, or even EKS pods across VPCs or accounts and so forth, right? So it incorporates this idea of a service mesh, but it's not actually a service mesh.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds very meshy. It sounds very service meshy.
Yes, it is, but it's kind of the next gen, so to speak, right? It's more than that. I mean, it's not just a sidecar running in your pod or application. So, and it's not restricted to containers, like I said. You could wire in your Lambda functions and EC2 applications and so on and so forth. So that's the beauty. And for those of you who did not know what the Kubernetes Gateway API is, just a very quick sort of high-level overview. So again, this is an open source project to model these service networking components in Kubernetes. Now, it is actually, and you might be having this question if you're experienced with Kubernetes networking, how is this different from an ingress perhaps, right? So the gateway API is actually not just for HTTP applications, unlike ingress. So it actually supports TCP and gRPC. So that's where the beauty is. It's like this higher level abstraction.
Yeah, got you. Because I was asking that. I was asking myself the very same thing. How does this differ to Ingress? Because that's what I always use, right? So,
exactly.
Gateway API gives me more capabilities, and it's an open source project as well, right? So, and so, are you saying that this project works with the one you're showing us works with, or is an implementation of the open gateway?
Exactly. So this has multiple implementations, right? So this is portable, just like the storage API in Kubernetes, right? So it can work with many storage backends, cloud providers, and so on. This is a similar sort of concept, right? So it already has a bunch of implementations. There is Istio, there is Traffic, and of course EKS, right? Like I mentioned, because Lattice also supports EKS. So again, if you look at this blog, actually, rather than me talking too much about this, if you were to happen to sort of pay attention to this blog and sort of go through it, it does a very, very good job of covering everything. So the main thing it does is, if I were to scroll down real quick, and I think you would have seen this before as well. So this picture, right? I apologize. The important thing is, how do these, this API gateway concepts map to Lattice concepts? That's very important. So that's what this blog does a very great job of covering, as well as, it gives you a very good getting started step as well. So you can install a gateway controller. Yeah, it's super easy. Very, clear step-by-step instructions. So you can get this up and running and see how you can use this to work with, and how it actually creates VPC Lattice objects in your AWS account.
Right. So let me ask you a question then, Abhishek. Effectively, if I'm a developer, the thing that this is helping to make my life easier is where I've got an application that's distributed and needs to speak to lots of different things. Effectively, this project will help me understand how to make that easier and define all through code, right?
That's right. This is a Kubernetes native way of doing things, right? So you could, if you know of Amazon, so ACK, the AWS controller for Kubernetes. So it's like a Kubernetes. You again work with your favorite YAML files. You work with manifests. Of course, you can codify them, and then apply this kubectl apply, and boom, you have your VPC Lattice objects. In this case, of course, with this gateway controller project. Of course, there are other implementations.
Nice, like it. Very cool. So that's the first. That's the first project. So check that out, everyone.
Yes,
like it.
Yes, you should absolutely. This is new, cutting edge. Caught my attention, and I'm sure you'll love it as well. Quickly moving on to the other one as well. So I'm actually going to talk about a demo application which happened to again catch my attention, and I really like WebSocket. To be honest with you, I've worked with it.
Me too.
It's a very interesting, very interesting protocol. Great for real time applications, chat and whatnot. And like HTTP, it is stateful. Obviously, that is one of its good parts, but there are caveats, right? There are cons to it, and one is in terms of scalability, but the other one is in terms of session management. So how do you handle clients who get disconnected and so on and so forth? So this blog, so this blog post, sorry, not this one, right here, it does a very good job of sort of demonstrating this in action with a very, very nice example. So if I were to scroll down real quick to this diagram right here, let me actually zoom out a little bit. So this diagram, it does a very good job. So I really enjoyed just reading through it. So there is this teleprinter Lambda, which is connected to a front-end client using a WebSocket connection, and it demonstrates very clearly how the WebSocket session management is done. So if a connection is lost, how the user ID is managed. The client application is actually sort of reading through a Wikipedia article, just as an example in this case. So if it gets disconnected, how does it come back and continue from that article? So it's a very nice sort of demonstration, and how you can use DynamoDB in the backend to again handle inactive sessions and so on and so forth. So if you're using the WebSocket API with the Amazon API gateway, that is what this blog post focuses on. And if you have problems around managing these sort of disconnections and so on and so forth, this is definitely one blog post to look out for. And it gives a very good getting started guide as well. So it goes through the code. It gives you a SAM template as well. So it should be pretty easy to get started and sort of have this on your AWS account up and running. So yeah, pretty cool. Caught my attention.
Yeah, you know what? And those two projects are cool. It's not the one though I thought that you were going to talk about, right? Because I know. I know you're a Go developer. I know you're a big Go fan, and there is a Go project this week. And I thought, I'm sure he's gonna tune into that, but you didn't. So well done.
I did not decide to dive into that because maybe what, next show, another guest, maybe I could be there. But I want to give a shout out as well, just for, again, I'm being a little biased, my apologies, but I'll quickly scroll down. Yeah, again, I do a lot of work with Redis and Kafka, so of course if Redis is here, which it was, I'm sorry, I'm going to quick reads, scroll down. Yeah, Kubernetes and Redis, right? So like I said, I mentioned earlier in passing, I have done a lot of work with ACK and with some of the Redis services on AWS, which is MemoryDB and Elasticache. So this is now GA, actually. The Amazon, the ACK controller for MemoryDB for Redis is now GA. So I'm very happy to sort of see this. And if you folks want to try this out, again, a Kubernetes way of sort of setting up your MemoryDB clusters using manifests and YAMLs and even code for that matter, right? So that's that. And the other one is this. If you use Elasticache, which I'm assuming you do if you use Redis on AWS, so this has now a very, very nice sort of bunch of predefined configurations. So you go to your cluster, right? You go to your account, and if you want to set up a cluster, you have these nice configurations: production, dev staging, or a demo, right? A very small. So just click it, boom, right? Very, very nice and smooth experience. You don't have to think about it. So yeah, I just want to give a quick shout out in case
these are really super
useful. Yeah.
Okay, so. That's fantastic. So thank you for that. If you're watching, tell us what you think. What are your favorite recent open source projects that you've caught your attention? Put them in the chat. We'll give them a shout out. What have we missed? If you've got one you're working on, share it with us, and we'll include it in the next newsletter. So from last week's newsletter to the one that is currently I'm working on. Okay, so this is exciting. It's all new stuff, right? And I'm going to cover a couple of projects, but the one I want, there's a kind of a theme emerging, okay, this week, in that there are a number of projects that are integrating ChatGPT. And if you don't know what ChatGPT is, then first of all, congratulations. I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing something well. But ChatGPT obviously is the large language model that OpenAI have produced that allows you to create prompts in text that do something, right? And so what we're seeing is this being integrated into some of the tooling. We've got, first of all, the if you're a Postgres developer, how you can use it to effectively create your queries within Postgres, right? So a very interesting one. There's a little demo there from this project, which you can then implement. We've then got AIWS, which takes this and combines it with the AWS CLI that then allows you to effectively create a prompt, and then it gives you what it thinks are the commands that you need to run. Okay, I might be able to do a demo of this in a second. And then the one which I am going to do a demo of, hopefully, if the demo gods are kindly, is one of our longtime favorite colleagues, Lars, who's actually appearing in next episode. He's combined ChatGPT with one of my favorite services, which is CloudWatch Insights. And I'm going to basically try and do a demo. So I have got.
I like these teasers which you have there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were talking before we went on air that I have a number of GitHub repos, and what I do is I have a Lambda function that runs every day, and it captures the information, stores it in CloudWatch as my data warehouse, right? So I've got all this data about views, clones, referrers, and I'm taking it from the GitHub API. Now GitHub only keeps it for 14 days. That's why I'm doing this, right? But what I want to do is I want to basically, from that data, I want to create a query that allows me to find out who are the referring kind of sites. So what I can do is I can basically, using quotes, I can actually first of all, I should actually before I do this, let me show you the project. So what you have to do, it's a Chrome plugin. And what you do is you have to, in the source file, it's not here when you create. Oh, what am I doing? Oh, I'm not sure what I've done there. I have done something wrong. So here we go. So you have to create a API key.js file here. Okay. And it's all in the documentation. So it's very, very easy to follow. You then basically use npm build to actually build the plugin. And then you install it through your standard Chrome plugin. And when you do that, what you then get is the ability, if I do this, Is that right? Yeah. So what happens is I then get a button called Convert to Query. So all I've done is, can you select all events and from events filter by event type referral, and then list all referrers which identified by referrer and group them by repo name. So you do need, what I found when I was playing with this, okay, is that it's not super smart. You have to give it some information because otherwise it just makes stuff up, right? Which is we know ChatGPT does that, right? So as long as you give it enough things like, for example, event type, which is something obviously in CloudWatch, and some of the key fields you're capturing, then if I click on Convert to Query, I'm hoping this is going to work because it worked yesterday. So what it's going to do is it's going to it's going to basically now think about it. It's using ChatGPT. So I'm using my OpenAI account to do this, and it's now created it's created something. Not sure if this actually looks good, but let's try it. Yeah, I didn't think that looked right. So this is why you don't do live demos, right? So pass message report, wide duration type. So I'm not sure why. Yeah, so I think what it said, so message type equals report. Let me try again, because I think that maybe the copy and paste failed. Let's try it. Let's try again. Referrers. So that actually looks all right, actually. So the actual prompt looks good. So cool. And this does happen. I have found that when I use ChatGPT sometimes, and I do it twice, we'll try it again. Okay, let's try it a second time and see what happens. It does take a few seconds while obviously it's doing the API calls and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And let's see if it works. See, it's different, isn't it? It's different, but I don't think this is going to work either. Yeah. But let's try.
No, I think no red flags. I don't see any red flags.
No. Well, so here the thing is, so the filter type is not right. It should be something else. Okay, well, look. So you know, just so you show, this is not this stuff happens, right?
It's tough for AI to take our jobs, I guess.
Yeah,
TLDR.
Exactly. So we are safe for the moment. We are safe for the moment. But I think the important thing there, okay, is I think it's interesting that these projects are trying to implement, integrate ChatGPT in an interesting way. So that's the first thing. Actually, the other project, the other one which I shared was the let's have a look. Where is it? So AIWS. So this is the actually let me make that bigger. So show me all my S3 public hits. Okay, and hopefully it will then basically go away and it will give me a command. And the thing is, again, here we can see it's not very clear. So now that's not quite right. Okay, this is not quite right. Yeah. But you can see that it's basically given me some commands. Another one. So AIWS. How do I copy all my local files into an S3 bucket called build on open source? And let's see what this does. I think this one probably is, it can work. So yeah, here we go. Look. So this one actually is pretty good. Okay. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so the same, right? At least, yeah, it's not S3
API. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think again, it's not perfect, but it's interesting how I think it's fired the imagination of people to try these things. So there are a couple of demos that didn't all work. So that's the first set of projects. The other project I want to talk about very quickly before we finish this section, okay, is this one, semantic search. Right now, one of the interesting ways I see that large language models are being used is to help developers more easily find the information they need from documentation. So Astra, I think, is the one that I've heard about most. But the idea is that you use your documentation as a corpus, and then it allows you to do things like, rather than do like a Google search, say, how do I deploy this on AWS, or how do I configure this thing to do that? And then it will just extract from the documentation the bits you need and give it to you. That's how the Astro thing works anyway. And so I think it's a very interesting demo app that basically is worth exploring to see how you might be able to use it to improve your documentation, or make it easier for developers to use your documentation. So those are the projects that I want to share this week. What do you think, people who are watching? What do you think of these projects? Do you think they're interesting? Would you use them if you're using ChatGPT? Share with us how you're using GPT. But I think for that's all we've got for this week. I think now I'm really excited because it's time to bring on our guest of the week. So let's I think let's do that. Let's find out if I can do the transition. Yes, it works. Hello, Andrea. Hello, how are you?
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, so Andrea, for everyone who is new, who's watching, can you give us a quick introduction as to who you are and what you do?
Okay, I'm Andrea. I'm a community builder and the co-founder of Nuvolari, which is the company behind the open source project Leap. And I think I was trying to know how can I best describe myself, and I think there are two words that describe myself better, which is automation and community.
Nice.
Because I'm the kind of lazy guy who get bored doing the repetitive task, and this is why I created the open source project. And I love community. I have always been in basketball teams, and I love how group of peoples create a set of common rules to operate better, and
nice.
That's the way that open source works, and what I love of open source. And I think that's why I'm there presenting my open source project today, for those two main reasons.
Yeah. So obviously, we spoke many years ago, when Leap was just beginning, right? And it was super interesting. And from those early days to now, it's like amazing how the project has evolved, right? So Andrea, tell us, what are you going to show us today? What are you going to talk about?
Yeah, I think we can start about what's the journey that brings starting with the project and how it evolved from the first closed beta of an internal project, because it was an internal need, and we can move on what is and doing a demo. If
awesome.
you want, I can present some slides.
Yes, let's do that. And if you're watching and you've got questions for Andrea about what he's talking about and his project, about getting started in open source, put your questions or comments in the chat and we'll shout them out. So Andrea, over to you.
So as I said, I'm an automation guys, and what I love of automation is that you can remove your repetitive task by automating like everything I do, script for everything, and that was the case. We had a problem, and I remember that image hung on the door when I entered in the office the first day, which say how much time you can spend on automating a task based on how much time, how often do you do that task, and how much time you shave off every time you are doing that task. And we discovered that we have a lot of time for our script to automate. At the moment, we were back in 2015, so early, and AWS introduced AAM role federated. So we decided into our organization to generate AAM role federated with our identity provider, G Suite at the moment, and we create a solution for accessing the web console, but there was no solution for accessing in a programmatic way to AWS, so with credential. So we generated a small tool that extracts some assertion and generate a set of short-lived credential. And at the moment we had one account, then one account has become a huge account, then AWS luckily introduced organization, and bam, we had like thousands of accounts. How many times happens today to switch from an account to another one? It's, I guess, a lot. And we were, as a developer, I was wrestling against the AWS folder. So I had plenty of credential, not secure in a plain text file, which was something that I don't like at all. And the problem was that I don't want to manage those credentials in secret at all, because I'm afraid of what I can do and other people in my company can do. Generate and rotate those credentials to apply to a good cloud security posture, and authenticate with different AIM principles. So we had AIM user, AIM role federated, cross account access, many of different use cases to cover, and for each principle you have tip and tricks to do the security things well. On the other side, we, as a developer, I want to automate everything to the cloud. So we created this small tool has become Leap, which is the first desktop app that allows you to access AWS in a single click, both programmatically and via console. So it's your companion to the cloud, and it's been developed with a security in mind first approach. So everything created into Leap, it's created with the security first. So every sensitive data is stored in an encrypted way in your system vault, and the app works only locally, so it calls automatically STS from your local machine.
So Andrea, can I just to recap for people who are watching? So effectively, the problem you were trying to solve, okay, was how, as developers, can you safely access your AWS resources or environments, okay, and especially in more complex environments where you've got multiple AWS environments. Maybe if you're working in, for example, in an ISV where you actually even got multiple customers, right? So
if you have thousands of customers,
exactly,
internal accounts and many organizations to manage. How can you do it? And even if you are in a single organization, how can you store your data safely in the most safely way?
Yeah.
And on the other side, we want a tool and that evolved with the community, and the community wanted that, a tool that was easy to use and with the slickest user experience possible, to be used by every builder of AWS. So if you are aware only about, I don't know, data, and you are not aware about all AWS, you can access to your EC2 instance in a click. You can have many action to don't know how to do AIM in the right way, but Leap is doing that for you. And the idea there is to manage all the principle like AIM user, role federated, and single sign-on role. And for AIM user, we store the sensitive data. So access key and secret key of the user, it's stored in the system vault. In my case, it's the keychain. And we rely on the get session token API locally to generate a set of short-lived credentials even for the AIM user. And it supports multi-factor authentication.
Nice.
One of the funny part there is the AIM role federated. We started with G Suite, as I said, but then the community contributed to add Okta, OneLogin, Azure AD, ADFS, Auth0, because adding an identity provider in Leap to be supported, it's like 6 line of code, so it's super easy. And even there, we do extract the some assertion, store that extracted the assertion in a safe place, and generate a set of short-lived credential even there. So the same use case.
We have a question, okay, from Neo Chroma. It's not AWS related, so can you use this with other clouds other than AWS? Is it just AWS at the moment?
It's AWS and Azure, so it's a companion for the cloud, let me say.
Okay, cool.
Cool. And for AWS single sign-on, which is one of the most used, I think, feature, It's the ability to automatically list all your account roles in a single place just by accessing to AWS, and it support if you are working in a ISV, it's really a tricky thing to do. Multiple AWS single sign-on online at the same time, so you can use how many AWS identity center as you want in the same time. Just the last one part we are covering, it's the cross account roles. So AIM role chained to another of the previous principle, and the fun part there is that we are doing the assume role automatically from one of the previous, and from that jump to an account to another one, it comes the name Leap.
So
exactly. I was going to interrupt you for a second there and digress and just why that additional P, leap or lip, or and what's the story behind that? And
It's leap,
yeah.
like the jump to the
Leap.
cloud.
Yeah,
it's the giant jump to the cloud
with an extra P.
Yeah, I know it's a tricky name, but it's a cool name.
I like it though. I like it because it makes you think.
Yeah,
It's like,
nice.
So I know that when we launched Amazon Corretto, the name Corretto is actually quite a hard one to spell, but that actually ended up being a good thing, right? Because people then started thinking about it and talking about it, and so maybe that was the reason for that extra P, because it caught your imagination as well, Abhishek, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah, the extra P was it's an app, but it's a jump. It's the app to jump to the cloud, so the extra P comes from that.
And it's got nothing to do with you being a basketball fan either, right?
No. Not in this case. And as I said, the app works only locally. So how is the credential generation flow? A user asking Leap to generate a set of credentials. Leap retrieving the sensitive data from the keychain or your local key vault. Since the app is cross-platform, it works with Windows, Linux, and macOS. And with those sensitive data, it call locally STS for your environment, generate a set of credentials, and inject them into your AWS folder. And we can go into the demo there. I think which that is really easier to understand. So this is my credential file. As you can see, my credential file is empty. One of the main things I wanted is to empty my credential file and not act the credential file like my source of all the place I can go in my environment. I want that clean, so an attacker cannot attack me in that plain text file. And use the credential file only when I need it. So when I need to go into an AWS account, I just have to click on play, and automatically the app set a set of short-lived credentials into my account.
So Andrea, can I ask a question before? So what you're showing us, you just clicked on that thing there in the session, okay, and then it generated the short-lived. But in order to create those things, what is it? Is it simple? Is it you just add? Okay, so basically you do that. Okay, right.
You just have to choose the method like an AIM user. You choose the profile, the named profile you want. So the default profile, or if you're using, I don't know, the code commit helper. I use the code commit helper on another profile, so I can source my repository on a private account. A name to remember the session, the region in which the session is working, so the region, and the MFA if you have an MFA device, access key and secret key, and bump, you are in. Even for AM role federated, it's the same thing, and for the chained, you just have to select from which principle you are assuming the role.
Okay, nice.
I think that the funny part is AWS single sign-on. We can see that if I'm logging into AWS single sign-on, the app asking me to log into the account, and with AWS single sign-on, I can just log, do sign in into my account. And once I allow the request, what happens? Automatically, the app recognize all the place I can go in my AWS Identity Center. And
cool.
In the same way, I can click and I switch the account. I need another account, I click, and credentials are switched. And every 20 minutes...
overwrites the credential files every time you choose a new account. Is that right?
And it's rewritten by the app, and you can have multiple profile active at the same time, and the app automatically rotate those credentials every 20 minutes, but the credential lasts for 1 hour to 2 weeks based on what's the settings on your AWS environment.
And for people watching, okay, these are real credentials. The reason why you're not seeing them, I believe, Andrea, is because you've used that trick to block out the text, right? So they are real.
Those are real credentials.
But for people watching, we when we did the dry run, I shared with Andrea a little regex you can use within iTerm that basically, if you print out on the screen what looks like to be an access key or secret access key, it actually hides it. It makes it invisible. So these are real. Okay, they look blank on the demo, but they are absolutely real.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thanks to Rick. And
then we said, okay, but the community started asking, okay, we had the programmatic way to access, but what about the console access? So we created even a browser extension that works with Chrome browser and Firefox, and with command click I can access to a console without accessing to the console, without doing any re-login into the console, because I'm using the credential already in use, generated one time by Leap. So, and then people said, okay, it's good, it's awesome, but what's the main problem? If I have to go to another account, what happens? That you are signed out from the first account. Not there, because the
whoa.
Yeah,
this is awesome.
Not anymore.
If you have, you can use as many accounts as you want with the console, and you are also always logged. You can open and continue working on your services. You can even opening new tabs, and it maintains the color of your account.
Very cool.
And you are in 3 different accounts, 4 different accounts, and at the same time, all from your central control panel, which is the desktop app.
Nice, really, really nice. So, I mean, this alone, I mean, everyone who's used AWS consoles, right, and have multiple accounts knows this pain very, very acutely, right? So,
we with the community, we solved that problem, and also with the community, we started saying, okay, remember, I'm an automation guy. I want to automate everything. We want to automate as much thing as possible. So we added also action to the cloud, to like shortcuts to the cloud. And the first shortcut we added is the shortcut to connect directly to an EC2 instance through AWS System Manager, Session Manager in a click. So just in a click, you are going into your EC2 instance, and what does the app do there? So as you can see, if I do bin bash, I'm the SSM user into my EC2 instance, and the app inject a set of one-time credential for that account only to launch the command from your API, and then unset the environment variables. So those credentials have been used like one-time only credential, like one-shot credential.
Yeah.
In fact, as you can see, I'm accessing to an account to this account. I'm accessing to an instance in this account, but the credential there are referring to another account because I can access to instance and use environments and credential only like one-shot credential, even for not active credential at all. And one of the main problems of contributing to an open source project is that you have to know all about the project, and now we have like 40,000 line of TypeScript of that code, so it's getting huge. So we decided to create an hub of plugins in which you can create your own plugin. I think I have them there. We have many plugins created by the community that you can install it like just by clicking on install, and automatically the plugin is installed.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, and if I where is my plugin? Let me say. Okay, the plugin is installed, but I just have to restart the application to see the plugin. But it's not a problem. Let's see with the other plugins. I have already 2 plugins installed, and with a plugin, I can. I show you one of the coolest thing, I think, which is an even there with System Manager, a tunnel to an instance to connect to a Windows instance directly into RDP, directly into from Leap. So with Leap, I have a plugin that forward 2 ports into my local instance, and from there I can access to my EC2 instance.
Oh, nice.
Automatically from the app without any key, without any key pair. I'm into an EC2 instance.
Whoa.
And
that is
one
nice.
of the biggest thing there, we have done it for a customer, and the problem there was, okay, but I want to put my local file into the instance. How can I do that? So let's do an example. If I'm doing a pick on a random image, not so random, and I'm giving from my phone to my computer. Let's see if the image is seen. Yeah, it's
Hey,
we have
nice.
a medal right there. I can copy the medal and put
I like the example.
And
Very subtle. It's very subtle.
Very subtle.
Yeah. And I can put my medal right into my ES2 instance in just like
Yeah, that's
3
amazing.
seconds. 3 seconds. Yeah, and the most part there is that we the plugin there, it's been made by a contributor, and it's on npm, and you can install it into the app with a simple configuration, which is with his own documentation by the contributor, and you can start working with port forwarding databases to connect to private databases from Leap without any VPN, or accessing to a Bastion host without a VPN, even there through System Manager. System Manager is a great service, and integrating it into Leap, it's been it has made Leap a great companion for us to working with the cloud every day.
Yeah, I mean,
Andrea,
it is.
So go ahead, Rick. It's fine.
No, I'd say it's very impressive, and I think if you're watching, what do you think? Do you think this tool will be useful and help you, be more productive as a developer on AWS? Certainly for me, I think you're solving a lot of the common pain points I have, right? Because I do worry about my local credentials file, right? And if it does get compromised, I'm screwed, right? So everything you've showed me solves not only solves that problem, right, but it also allows me to really kind of easily open up multiple browser tabs, open up and do effectively do ngrok, okay, on AWS resources, right? So it's amazing.
Yeah, the idea there is we want an app that brings you easy to use developer experience, the best developer experience possible. So it's funny to use, and on the other side, it gives you automatically the right cloud security posture. So everyone using Leap, it's using the standard of AWS for using credential. Just another quick site on how we are into security. We manage two different methods to generate credential. The first one is the one you just see, but we have also another method which is with another companion of Leap, which is the CLI. We have also a CLI. You can install it from our documentation. And with the CLI, if you want, you can also access to an AWS account. And as you can see, I have no credential at all there. And if I open up a new account, and a new terminal, and I do AWS STS get caller identity. So who am I? What happens? That I am into an account. How it's possible? How it happens? Because if I go back into my config file, I'll see that I have a credential process that is erased when it's not needed, and it generated when it's needed, that automatically answer to every SDK, CDK, Terraform, whatever you are using, asking for credential in order to use, to generate a set of one-time credential only when are needed. So no credential at all are in a plain text file with that
so
method.
That's literally the command, is it? What I see there, Leap session generate. So that's
the
CLI.
It's just a CLI command that, and this is my idea of a session, which is not a sensible information.
It's not sensitive. Okay, got it. And I had a quick question on that, Andrea. So everything you showed us up until now, it's all cross-platform.
It works.
Or are there any caveats there, like which folks need to be aware of, perhaps?
Oh no, we are
cross-platform compatibility.
We support Windows, even ARM, than x64 for Windows, DAB, and AppImage. So we have many things to come, many release with, and even for in the documentation you can have the CLI and the installation and the requirements for all you need, and the installation for the CLI, for the browser extension, and for whatever you need to work.
I see folks are already leaping with joy.
They are
leaping.
Yeah. So we're sharing the link for the GitHub repo down below, so you can check out the project there. And also we had the plugins as well. The plugins can be found there as well. So make sure that you also follow Andrea on Twitter if you're on Twitter. You can ask him directly more questions. So keep those questions coming, though, folks. I think what you've shown us is incredible. So I have some questions as well, Andrea. So, one of the things that you often know after you've been sort of like doing all the work is, what would you have loved to have known, now that, sorry, when you started the project, based on all the work you've done so far? So what might you have changed at the very, very beginning? What's been your key learning?
Yeah, I think that starting with open source made me realize after that you have to work extremely hard on storytelling and communication from day zero to bring your idea to other in order to contribute. So you have to be strong on your opinion to create something together, to have a common vision with a community. And once you created a community, the community is more important than the code.
Nice. The Apache way. The Apache way.
And what I think that is that there are so many script and tools for doing what Leap does. And what we say that is that we don't want another cloud access standard. We want to build that within a community. Not it's my standard, but it's the standard of a community, a broad community of heterogeneous people. So this is the case. I have a slide for that, which is I don't want to create another standard to proliferate into the open source method. Because this is not the case. This standard it comes within the community. Many of the thing we have done with the community, and thanks to the community. We have an active community on how to operate into the cloud, and we have community builders and contributors from all over the world making with us a blog into the AAM section. So we have plenty of article on AAM, on how to improve your ability to use AAM, and how to you have to create and organize your account and your governance into AAM, which is and we have plenty of things right there to help people understand better and work together into the AAM. We have in 2 weeks a blog series coming out with AAM experts from all over the world. So we are coming out with a new series, and every 2 weeks we will publish an article on the blog, on our blog post with AAM expert. We will start with the AAM fundamentals from the AAM fundamental guys, Sandro Volpicella and Tobias Schmidt, which are awesome. And then we will have a community builder talking. We will have a guy, another community builder who wrote an article about a whole book about AAM, talking about conditions. So we have plenty of article already ready to
nice.
And I think many people that works with AAM, which is one of the most underrated service of AWS, have to come there and see what we are building.
So as we wrap up, okay, Andre, what's the call for people watching either live or maybe watching on the replay? What do you need help with? What's the call to action? How can people get more involved with Leap? What are you looking for?
We are always looking for feedback, and if you like the project, give us a star and join our community and ask us how many features as possible so we can improve the standard of how we operate into the cloud every day. So we have a community for that, and we want to improve that community.
Cool.
To create sooner we will add the ability for plugins to interact even with the desktop app. So you can create model, list your S3 bucket, drag and drop object into your S3 bucket. So the idea there is to have as many plugins as possible. So check out plugins, see if a plugin, it's I have the plugin template. We have the plugin template, and a plugin, it's a simple, let's close that. It's 40 line of code to create a plugin.
Wow,
So
that's
it's
cool.
Nice. Yeah.
It's a simple TypeScript action class. So that extend an interface. So it's
You don't need to understand the entire project. Those 40,000 lines of code which you spoke about.
I may even have a go and ask ChatGPT to create my next plugin.
now we have into the main repo, we have like 4 projects, because we have a core library which it's used by the CLI and by the desktop app, the CLI, the desktop app, and the browser extension. So we have
Cool.
like a single project has become
okay, very nice.
Yeah.
So Andrea, as we wrap up, okay, for people who appear on the show, we have these lovely little medals. So what I'm going to do, okay, is I'm going to throw it to you.
Yeah.
And your basketball skills have actually come in handy. You've caught it. Now there is one last thing though.
Can you throw one to me as well, Rick?
There you go. Second one for you. It's a bit of a store story there. We will sort you out. Now, Andrea, I have a feeling I know where this is going to go, but I've got to ask anyway. We have a tradition on the show where we ask people who love pizza. You go into your favorite pizza shop and you ask the waiter or waitress, I would like a pizza. I want ham on my pizza, but crucially, do you have pizza on your pizza, or do you not have pizza on your pineapple? Where do you? I've got you here.
Yeah.
I have a feeling I know where you're going to go, but tell me, put me out of my misery.
I'm Italian. I cannot do some things like pineapple on pizza. So I'm all the way on.
Okay, all the way.
All the way off.
Okay, well, I had to ask. I knew you would answer that. And apologies if I've offended all the other Italians on the chat.
Not a problem.
Okay, so I think with that, let's wrap up the show and let's have a look. What am I doing? Wrap up the week, next transition. So in 2 weeks, we've got another AWS community builder, Lars Jacobson, whose plugin I featured today. We'll probably be asking him about his experiments with ChatGPT and other open source projects we featured. So make sure you check out 28th of April. Derek will be back. Obviously, mate. Abhishek, it's been brilliant having you here. I'm sure you'll host more shows in the future. Also, please make sure that you provide us with feedback. There's a short survey there. We are trying to make sure that AWS better serves open source and open source communities. Let us know how we can do that by completing this very, very short survey. We'll be very much appreciative of that. With that, I just want to say thank you again, Andreas, for you coming on the show and talking to us about Leap. I think if you're a developer out there, check it out. I think you'll easily find out that once you start using it, you wonder how you ever managed without it before, right? It's really one of those kind of killer projects, and I think
I'm going to do that.
Yeah, definitely. And also, as Andrea says, if you're using it, provide feedback. Maybe even look at the plugins. What do you do that maybe you can automate and create a plugin so you can share that with other people? Okay, so with that, I want to close the show. Again, thank you very much, Abhishek, for being an amazing co-host for me today. Andreas for coming on the guest, and we shall see you all in 2 weeks, hopefully, there. So see you there.
All right, cheers.
Bye.